Hi there, my name is Kendrick, and today I get to have Binyamin back. So Benjamin, welcome back, dude.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it. How you
Yeah,
doing?
man. Yeah, it's been like forever since our first interview, like 2019 or something. So it's been,
Yeah. Yeah, I've been you've been keeping up with everything. Good job.
yeah, thanks. Yeah, still at it at the interview stuff. But anyhow,
Yeah.
so dude, so it's been like a long time. What has been your experience like working on your last animal? I know you said before the interview you don't quite agree with your type, but you can
Oh,
talk about that if
yeah.
you want.
Well, before the social types came around, I saw how, okay, we're systematizing people, we're sticking people in these categories.
Yeah,
And yeah, that's the category maybe that, extrovertedly I would fit in, but I never had like the subjective um agreement with like my experience was different from the category that I was put in. And so when the social types came out, I had like this revelation. I was like, oh wow, yeah, everything I was typed as friends. So everything I was seeing as play for me overlapped with the category of friends. It's like one to one. Like play and friends is like the same thing. So it's like, okay, so now that play is friends, what's play? What does that even mean? And and yeah, that for me was a big journey in um a big question in trying to reestablish what type is, from an OP perspective, at least.
right. Okay. Oh, I forgot to ask. So for people who don't know, what's your full type in OPS? Just for
In
people.
OPS, I was typed as audio, TISE, and sleep last. So consume, play, blast. Yeah.
Right. Gotcha. Okay. And then social four.
Social
Um,
four.
right. Okay. So I think one of the biggest thing they discuss about the animals and the social type is like, people feeling that cognitive dissonance. If you're, for example, uh, lead play, right? But then you are a number one and you have demon friends. So you feel obligated to engage with a tribe, but then the interaction with the tribe is not authentic per se. It's more like an obligation to engage with them, but it's not a real friendship. So how do you feel, or what do you think about that sentiment then? Because like you said earlier, like, okay, you agree with the high friends thing, but like now what's play, right? But then with this cognitive dissonance thing happening, how does that affect you, or what do you think about it?
Yeah. So I mean, I think there's type and there's the way we conceptualize our type. And before I even knew what type was, I was conflating and conceptualizing FE and friends kind of together. Like this is my problem. I want to connect with people, but I can't. And like for me, it was a clear binary, and now it's become more than just a binary. Um, but yeah, that's how I was conceptualizing it. Like I want to reach, I want to have friends, and what are these obstacles in my way to stop me? And so FE was always an obstacle in my way to stop me. And so it forced me to work on FE. And play was an obstacle to stop me. So it forced me to work on play, which now I think I have a better understanding of what play is now that I was able to separate the two.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you're really good.
Probably even a better understanding of FE too because of that, because like I was conflating them all together.
Well, like, of all the ISTPs, you're probably the one that's like kicking ass in the FE department the most. Whether and I think that was by design by you, I guess. That's not something that you.
It was not done. It was designed by the universe where I just had my ass kicked so many times that it was either grow or die, basically. So
Right.
yeah,
Okay, that
yeah.
makes sense. Yeah, I guess because you want to connect with people, so you have to do it. Otherwise, it's not gonna happen, right?
Yeah. And I think also, so that's one of the things I was processing with friends is ego also gets in your way. It
Right.
really does. And so I don't think I have less ego just because I'm friends first. I think my ego is just the same. I see it as an obstacle. I see it as something that I'm constantly trying to overcome and fight,
Right.
and wrestle with. And it's not, and it doesn't serve me. It doesn't help me. And so I think that's what friends is more about because ego gets in the way of friends. And I see how it hurts me as well by yeah, not feeding my ego. But for the most part, my goals as I'm designed to be is to be friends with people. And for my goals, that's what I need to defeat is the ego in order to get there.
Right. I guess the lead TIs would still have the biggest ego, regardless of you
Oh,
know,
we're always right, but that's not ego, that's just true.
right. Wink, wink. Anyways,
Right.
anyhow, so part of Save Your Friends is also being a specialist, right? is that something that you've also kind of related to in your life, where like you prefer to have um, focus on honing your craft in one area as opposed to having multiple things? Although, number fours do chase hobbies, right? And you have a lot of hobbies too. And you're also
I
like
have hobbies, also consume. So my consume is there, regardless of, um, also the big picture. Like I have my hands in a lot of different areas and I want to be specialist in all of them and try to put them together. And I don't know if you relate to that at all, but yeah, definitely where I'm responsible is for my area of specialization. And um, so yeah, like the social types, for example, is an area that I've taken as a specialization and I've had it for, I don't know, 15 years now. And now that the social types are out, there's like an overlap with my area of specialization. So I kind of feel, I guess there is ego there. I guess there is a way, something I can stand on there, but it's standing on competency and it's not standing on ego. So it's like a safe place for someone who doesn't want their ego, to stand on, because we're not standing on ego, we're standing on competency.
right, right. I guess you could be competent at something, but you don't necessarily like feel like you need to brag about it. It's just like
Right,
something that is, something that doesn't need to be put
right,
on other people and whatnot.
right, right. Yeah, and also I don't like, there's a lot. So this is another overlap that I see. But the way that my type is plays out is I also don't. I'm kind of bragging now, but like I don't like to talk about things. I like to just do things, and um, this is just a combination of everything with the thinking and the infodom and all that stuff. I'm not someone who's going to come around and just say how great I am. I'm going to go out and be great and then shut up about it.
So you don't need the tribe jubilee then? Like, like kind of like the stereotype with the ISTP, or you still need it?
Uh, okay, Tribe Jubilee is nice. When you've accomplished something, just a little bit of recognition in the hard work you've done.
Right,
But yeah, no, like really early on, you come to expect that's not going to happen. No one really cares about what you're working on.
right,
They'll thank me maybe 100 years down the line when they finally realize how amazing I was, but I'll be gone by then, right?
right. Yeah. So you don't get to experience the jubilee then.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Uh,
it's okay. You kind of have to accept that. That's not a big deal.
okay. I guess that's where that's probably why you're not a number one or something. Because if you're a
Right,
number one, like you need that jubilee right away, right? You need that recognition.
right. But I still interpret the world in that way. I still interpret success in that way. I'm still sort of chasing it to some degree. Like it's still like under the surface. You could see it. I did a series on cognitive balance on my channel, and like it just keeps leaking in there. Like the Jubilee was the symbol of success, even with the observers. I
Right,
wasn't able to get away from that Jubilee sort of idea, but the idea was success, and I represented success by like people cheering. But like, what else is there?
right.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. But
And it's also like it's enforced with our stories that we're seeing and with media and stuff. Like the whole celebration at the end of a success always involves this kind of jubilee thing, like in the Star Wars thing where Chewbacca doesn't get the medal. I think he's like the ISTP. Just kidding. But yeah, it's like that's what the media is also portraying, to some degree.
right. You know what? Like someone that, as someone that's like that has FITE in my access, I've for the longest time I never understood the whole like why are we celebrating after like work, Like what is this bullshit, That's like kind of what I was thinking. I was like, this is so
Yeah.
lame and pathetic. But like, I guess, they do exist because people do, if half the population is in the TIFE access, then half the population do want that. Plus like there's people in the
Yeah.
FE access who are like high friends that want to get together and have like a social event too, right? So, so it does make sense, I guess, from looking at it from that perspective.
Yeah, I see that too with the inverse, where they want the jubilee without the accomplishment, and that's way more weird to me.
Yeah. So why can't you have the Jubilee without having to do the work on the front end? Why can't you just like celebrate with people and have fun? And
It feels empty. It feels empty. Yeah.
if 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 the Jubilee is not for you, it's like for your friends or family member, is that still cool with you? Like you still would like to partake in that? Like let's say you have a friend or family member reached a certain level of success, now they're celebrating. Is that cool with you, or it has to be you that is being celebrated?
I mean, you asked me a point here. It's a good question because it's like a huge conflict in in me constantly where I get asked out to these Jubilee events and I just don't want to go. I really just don't. But again, the friends is like, you know, they're not going to be your friend. They're not going to ask you next time.
Yeah.
So you have to go in order to preserve the friendship. And so for me, that was like it's like my biggest cognitive dissonance constantly, where I'm constantly asked to things and I constantly just don't want to go. But I mean, and that's what I was interpreting as play. Oh, I have to go because of play, but no, it's because of friends. Like, and like the whole stereotype of sleep above play saying no all the time. Well, I find myself saying yes a lot of the time, but it's not because of play, it's because of friends.
Right.
Yeah.
I see. I see. That makes sense. Um, and I guess you also realize that if you want to be celebrated and have a jubilee, you need to maintain those friendships also. So it's like a tit for tat kind of deal, right? Like kind of like a reciprocal, right? If you
Yeah.
don't show up to their
I
jubilee, no one's gonna show up to your jubilee, right?
I still don't have the motivation though. Like my end goal isn't the Jubilee. Like the Jubilee is just something that's nice to have. It's not what I'm it's like I want the real Jubilee, the big Jubilee when I'm dead. Like I want my funeral to
Yeah,
have to be like celebrating my life. But until then, I don't want any Jubilee. Like it's all empty. It doesn't mean anything.
yeah, but you don't get
Does
to.
that make sense?
Yeah, but you're dead. You don't get to experience that like
But
celebration.
yeah, that great, perfect. I don't want to experience it.
I see. So with
I would
all
rather not be there for that
so
because it's just horrible.
are you saying then that you think your play lasts and you just have high friends? Is that kind of like the direction you're kind of going to?
I don't even know if I agree with. Okay, so when we're looking at the world through a binary perspective, we're trying to sort things out through binary ways. So I can see how like I'm leaning more on infodom for sure, and I can see how I can see how all these things play out. When it comes to sleep and play, I don't have the only time I ever have sleep crashes is when I have people around me and I'm not allowed I'm not allowed to disappoint them or hurt the friendship or let my ego get in the way of the connection. And so then I have a sleep crash because that's what's stopping me from getting my sleep time.
Right.
But I'm like, it's one of my struggles too in relationships where I'm constantly being like, I need alone time. I'm like constantly taking alone time, and it just hurts my relationship over and over again. Because there's always a limit, and I can't always be turned on. And like, I only get those sleep crashes when I'm around people. It has nothing to do with, yeah,
Is that something that has always been present for you, or is that something that happened more as you get older?
yeah, no, always present. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, no, because I'm only asking because like I'm high play, right? And double activated play. So I'm always sneaking out for alone time, but I only started doing it when I was in my late 20s. Like before my late
I
20s and
see.
teens, I was like,
Yeah,
I
no, I'm not sleeping
oh,
out. I'm not sneaking out for alone time. I'm avoiding things for alone time.
yeah.
And and yeah, I'm pretty strict with it. Like yeah, I can see that I'm not a good partner to have in a relationship because of that as well. Yeah.
Well, I mean, the other thing too, though, is you have, even though you have, you're originally typed as double activated play, you have consume over play. So it makes sense that you want alone time for the sake of consume, right? So, it's not like me, I'm lead play, right? So everything I do kind of starts from there,
Yeah.
before it
Yeah.
filters down. So,
Yeah.
um, I was also thinking about the social type. So, when I got my social type from Dave, um, he said I'm sneaking away to do work. That's why I'm number two. He's like, I'm finding a way to sneak out to do work. Work comes before friends. Still
Yeah.
high. So, um, when you're sneaking out, what are you doing?
When I'm sneaking out, what am I doing?
Yeah, like when you're sneaking out to
I
do.
don't sneak. Yeah, I don't sneak out. I just do what I
Okay,
yeah.
when you're okay, so sneak out is just like it's just a saying. But like when you're setting aside time for you to have alone time, what are you? What's the purpose? What's the purpose there? Because for me, I'm like number two, so the purpose is to work, right? So what's the purpose
Yeah.
for you?
Just to just to put like a yeah, it's not oh okay, so alone time for me is not sneaking out for some reason. It's not it's just something that I'm obligated to do, and it's
Sure.
just processing. It's mostly just like TI heavy processing. Yeah.
Okay. And what exactly is the what are you processing with your TI when you're
So obviously there's all of the life issues and problems that are, that you have to deal with, all of the
Right.
extroverted world and all that stuff. Then there's, my work and my job that's also there.
Right.
And then there's, hobbies, things like that. And then there's big world problems and, um, worldview processing stuff. Um, and and yeah, seeing your role in things, seeing who you are, seeing who other people are. I don't know. Just it's hard. One of the questions that's really annoyed to me my entire life is, what are you thinking? Because anytime I'm with somebody, for some reason, I always drift off and they're always like, what are you thinking? And I'm like, I don't know. My answer is always, I don't know. I'm like, oh, so many things, everything and nothing. Like, like until the thought is complete, I can't package it in a way to present it to somebody. So yeah, it's always a question that I keep getting for sure.
I see. You have to conclude it first before you could, even.
Right. And I think it's the same thing with FI. FI has to conclude a feeling before they're ready to share it. They can't, while they're processing it, yeah, get out. Like, this is private.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
I don't
100%.
want you to corrupt my processing time. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, disrupt is, I think, the better word. It's like
Right, exactly.
trying to figure it out, and then you're like talking. I'm like, hey, shut the fuck up while like I try to figure this out, right? Kind of deal.
Yeah, I can't tell you until I figured it out. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Happy to share it once it's concluded, but right now it's like in the process.
Exactly.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
see. I see. I see where we're getting at. Okay. So what do you think is your animal then in that case? Because you don't think you think your connection with people is because of the friends coin, not because of the play coin. So do you think because I still think you're info dom, obviously. So
100%. Yeah.
let's just play
Yeah.
last then. That's like the only option, right?
I mean, if you want to put it into a strict system,
Yeah.
like, again, I don't know how a big problem that we run into when we're making systems is the internal consistency of it. And one of the things that was disrupting the internal consistency was this social type thing.
Yeah.
And assuming we're right about the social type thing and we're right about the OP thing. So then now that you've separated the two, there's like it throws the whole thing off because we were conflating things together. Everyone who was conflating things together in their cognition, including the originators. And so now when we're trying to reconstruct it to be internal consistent, I don't even know. I've never been on board with the animal system in like as it is, as like a 1, 2, 3, 4 kind of thing.
Right.
I've always thought of it as more of a dynamic thing, and I know I'm not alone in this. Um, every time I try to force it into this NI, it breaks down. Like, there's the internal consistency breaks down. And so I think there's something else going on there. So if you want to be able to type me like objectively and put me in some objective category, that's okay. Stick me in play, double activated play, stick me there. But for my cognition and what's actually going on under the surface and like the struggles I'm actually dealing with, you're not going to see that if you stick me in that box.
I see. So it doesn't completely explain what's going on. It just
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
yeah. But I guess for my gut.
Good mirroring, by the way. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. But like, so I guess for like a big, I mean, you interview a lot of people too, man. So
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
like the big picture category is okay. It's just okay, but it's not like complete. Is I guess what you're trying to say here. It's like
Yeah, and it's looking at like you have any. So this is something I've learned from all the NEs is looking at our cognition from one perspective, from one angle. And you can build an NI around that. That's fine, but just realize that's a delusional NI. It's only one angle and one way to look at us. It's
sure.
forcing us into binary categories. And that's okay. That's like, but just know the limitations of that.
Okay. I mean, I personally feel like the OPS system is pretty solid compared to like the other systems.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree. I definitely agree.
I think the social type thing, it's work in progress. That's my opinion of it. I think if they never brought it in, it would still have been a solid system.
I
Obviously,
agree. Yep.
the social type does explain a lot of things because, like, you know, sometimes I'm interacting with someone that is, super DI, like double activated, let's say FI or TI, right? But if for some reason they're like so tribe oriented, which makes absolutely no sense, right? So obviously, when they brought in this system here, it explained how someone that is double introverted can be so into the tribe versus like someone that's like really extroverted, like Arnold Schwarzenegger, is so into themselves, right? So
Right.
that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
I think me. So I guess you could say that the number ones and number fours is more fleshed out than like the number twos, number threes, which is kind of like, you know,
It could be. It could be. The other thing is the 1 and 4 is just really an ego coin, ego versus social coin. And so that's kind of easier to grasp, I guess.
right.
the twos and threes is harder to grasp, especially since like they don't even have the names down right. Because responsibility, obviously, everyone's going to use responsibility for like I'm responsible for friends. Responsibility is just the word we use for our saviors,
Right.
and so it's like it's kind of like a cop out word that you can throw onto whatever twos are doing. Um, and I don't know, generalist might be a better word for it. But yeah, there's definitely something going on there um, with the pattern, and it's not. I don't think like this is the only pattern we could have done in this on this layer. Like this is a new layer of cognition. It's trying to separate these layers, and so there is a layer here, and you have to categorize this layer. And the way they're categorizing the layer, it's up to them. It's their choice. It's their system. And so now that they've categorized it in that way, we're kind of as the community are using that categorical system, and it works obviously, but it doesn't mean that's the only way they could have done to categorize it.
Right. Right. Okay. I guess this is like the most TE way to do it, just like for the general masses to be able to absorb it easier.
Maybe, yeah. I don't know.
They don't have any TI person in their team,
I
right?
mean, they had to pick a way. Like you can't not categorize this. You have to make a decision on how you're categorizing it. And like yeah, like let's go with it. Let's use this. It's useful, you know?
What I've always kind of found interesting is like when I talk to you and stuff, because I feel like our focus when it comes to this OPS stuff is completely different. I think for you, you're trying to really hone in what's under the hood in terms of like definitions and whatnot. Well, for me, I'm looking for like the practical usage of the system itself. I
Could
think
be.
from a practical perspective, it's like amazing. It's so practical. Like you could take each of the animals, for example, or each of the social type, and then you have like an easy roadmap to follow in terms of like what you need to do to make your life better, right? Like for you, for example, FE was clearly like the problem. So and then TI was the obstacle getting in the way of the FE, right? So in your case, you would just dial down that TI a little bit
Right.
that you can do
Yeah,
more.
that's how I was interpreting it before I came to OP, for sure.
Yeah. And then for me, like when I got my type, I'm like, oh yeah, your sleep class, double activate play, you're screwing up your life because you're going all in this one thing. So I'm like, okay, yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. So for me, like when I look at the system, I'm just looking at it from almost like purely utility, like is this
Yeah,
useful?
no, I get it. Yeah, it is useful. It is useful. And you have to make a call on how to use it. It's just when we come down to the argument of, oh, it's useful, therefore it's true, that's something where I can't get on board with. Where it's like, okay, it's useful, but it doesn't mean it's true. It's any other system, any other way to divide this could have also been just as useful. It's just the use is in the data set, in the community, in it, like because if we would have divided it different and then we gathered the data set, now we have use for those categories. So that's kind of where I'm coming at it from.
I see. Okay. I guess David Chan was the first to come up with this system. That's how it came to be. That there's this particular system that was arranged in this specific way that's useful to
Right.
the tribe, but
Right.
it could have been arranged in like someone else, and if they made it more TE friendly, I guess you could say, it
Right.
would
Well,
have worked the same way.
the other thing is there is internal consistency to this, but it's all predicated on the basis that you're looking at the world in a binary way. You're looking at left and right.
Okay.
And the world isn't only a binary system. Our cognition isn't only a binary left and right. And if you're limiting your view of cognition in this way, then you're going to miss a huge part of cognition. And that's okay. You just got to kind of have to know that the use of this is limited to a binary way of thinking and looking.
Well, I mean, how would it be missing other parts of the cognition when they're not saying it's this or that? It's more like you're going to be using this more than this one. You know what I
Yep.
mean? It's like a
Yeah.
preference for one side, but it doesn't mean you
Right.
don't
Right.
the other side.
Right. So that's the filter. That's the filter is that you have a left and a right. But what if you have a third part? And so in OPS, they're not looking at things that come in threes. They're not looking at things that come in fives. And I guess like
You have an example
evolutionarily,
of
I will evolutionarily like we are very binary. Like we have 2 feet, 2 hands. Like we're very symmetrical, 2 sides of the brain. So it makes sense that our cognition would also have a lot of binary factors, and that's what we're seeing. And the way you divide those binary factors makes sense. Um, so an example of of threes, I think Enneagram is a great example of trying to capture a way of looking at things in threes. Um, I know other systems of thought, ancient Hindu systems, Kabbalah looks at things in threes. So there is definitely that. Actually, Kabbalah has a 2, a 3, and a 4. So it's got like different ways to look at things. But in terms of a binary system, just I think realizing that it's a way we're interpreting ourselves, it's not what we are.
Okay. Well, you kind of lost me in the last part, but I think
Yeah,
that threes part kind of makes a little bit of sense to me because it's like rock paper scissors in a way, right? So,
right,
and that does exist in real life where like if you look at let's say like if you look at sports, there's like this one player, no one can beat him, whatever, or her, and then but they have like a Achilles heel where like this for some weird reason, this like one player can beat them who's not really good against anyone else, but only them,
right.
which also exists, right? Um, so I guess that it does make a lot of sense from looking from that perspective and kind of like how you bring up the enneagram, right? Like they have the tri-type, right? They have the your growth path and also your disintegration area,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
so
Yeah,
yeah.
and then the other thing is like a lot of people get into these binary choices of yes and no or this or that, and sometimes it's like, well, I don't want this or that. There's always a third option, and I don't know, getting bogged down in thinking in a binary way all the time can also kind of lead us to very limited pathways.
I see. I guess this is where that's why you're like an IPEP because you don't want to narrow down as quick as Dave would like, because he narrowed down super quickly, right? It's just like black and white kind of.
Yeah, it's also that when you try to narrow down, you run into all of these issues that you can't get around. And then, the system is very new. And I'm not the only one trying to narrow this down. Like the entire community is trying to narrow it down. And we're all running into these roadblocks where things just don't really make sense on an internal level. And sorting that out is important in order to make the system more robust, I think.
I see. I see. So I guess you're just doing quality control in a sense, just to make sure it's as honed in as possible. So it's not, you know, they're not
Yeah.
you're not
And
learning.
the other thing is it's not for other people, right? Because I am TI at the end of the day. It's really just for me. I really don't care if you guys agree with me or believe me. Like I'm not here to try to present it and prove anything. I just want it to make sense for me. And
Okay.
then I'll go on and use whatever I'm using and believe whatever I'm believing. And if I fail and I'm wrong, that's on me, right?
So if your belief and thought process is completely delusional, you're cool with that?
I'm not cool with that. I would hate that. But I would be able like that's exactly what my problem is in believing a system 100% without doing the work to actually resolve that.
Right. I guess that's your
Right.
double observer comes in.
Right. And
You-
so to come back to your original question, am I like what do I agree with being play above sleep or sleep above play? I don't even know how to answer that question.
I see. Okay. I guess that's how TI works. It's yeah,
Right.
yeah. Oh my God, I don't want to be a TI person. It's so annoying.
I know it sucks.
There's like all the stuff that's going in your head. I mean, like, man, it's just not, you know, it's not. It's useful for sure. Like, okay, for example, like you're trying to build a rocket, right? Like, especially with those TISI people. Like, I really think that is like one of the strongest animal there is, like TISI.
That's interesting that you're respecting SI. What's going on there?
I've always
No, just kidding. Just keep going.
yeah, but like because like you don't want like a T person to build a rocket ship because they're gonna build with duct tape and all this nonsense, right? But like with a TI,
That's very I'm sure TE people can make good rocket ships.
yeah, but how many people are gonna die before they have like a good rocket
So
that
if you want the theory behind the rocket ship to be fleshed out and to be able to calculate and make rocket ships that work, then yeah, go to a TI person. But if you want the rocket ship to actually work and apply to reality, use a TE person for sure. It's like we need each other.
no, I get what you're saying, but like the prototype has to be created by a TISI person. The TE person cannot create the prototype, in my opinion.
The TE, so if the TE person does create the prototype, they won't know why or how it works. They just will know that, I did all this stuff and it works. They won't know they and this is so generalizing because there's TE people all over the place that completely understand this stuff. They use NI and SI to get around it and all that stuff. Like I took engineering in university, so like there's lots of TE people there too that learn how to make rockets. We did nuclear engineering. Like they know how to do nuclear engineering. It's not, yeah,
Yeah, I'm not saying they can't do it. I'm just saying they're
yeah,
not going to be as good as the TI person on the front end when it comes to building the prototype, at least. Obviously, if you want to test into reality, you need a TE person because the reality is what's going to give you the feedback of whether it actually
yeah.
works, right? Kind of like how Dave and Chance as the TE people make fun of
I
T.
think so. I think if you want to take, building a rocket ship and apply that to cleaning your house, then a
Yeah.
TI person would be great to see the combination of those two things and know the theory behind both and how they align. How you can use making a rocket ship and cleaning your house together. And the TE person won't make that connection because they're separate things. They're solving this objective problem and this objective problem, and there's no thinking connection between the two. Whereas a TI person would try to really refine down the thinking to that level where they're the same.
I think though, if you're using the clean your house as an example, there's less at stake when you're cleaning a house than like building a rocket, right? So
See, there's the T. Yep, exactly.
yeah, so you don't want to have someone that's TE to do the rocket ship thing on the front end because it's gonna waste so much resources and
Yeah.
potentially debts, from like just trying to see if it's gonna work or not.
You
Um,
also don't want someone who's TI to clean your house. It's just
I mean, not on the front end because like I do live in a TI household and nothing works for anyone else for that one person that divides the system.
that's right.
It's super
Yeah.
annoying, right? Like so,
Yeah.
um, like my mom, for
Yeah, they're
example.
responsible to make it work for them, and you're responsible to make it work for you. So of course, like, oh, it doesn't work for you. Well, you figure it out. It's your problem, not mine.
Yeah, it's super annoying, right? Like, I mean, like for
Uh-huh.
example, like my mom is like an ISFJ jumper, and like she's blasting people all the time. I'm like, the system you created doesn't work for anybody. Like, granted, though, like me and my mom get along now. We used to not get along, but now we're good. Um,
Oh, that's good to hear. Yeah, I know your story with her a little bit.
yeah. No, we're good.
Yeah.
We're good now. It just took like many years, but we got there. But I'm
Good
like,
for
oh my
you.
God, this doesn't work with this shit doesn't work for anybody. So and then it actually started making me think like also like when you go to like let's say like a fast food place, right? You want a food right away, so you want a TE person to make it. But then when you have someone with like FE, right? They'll be like, oh, how's your day? Blah blah blah, and you're like, can you shut up? I want my burger. Give me my food and get out. I don't
Yeah.
need like this pleasantry, right? So I do feel like at stuff that's like lower at stake, the TE is more effective. The TI
Yeah.
is when the stake is higher. But I mean, that's just my what
I
what I
mean, my mom comes over. She's TE dumb. She comes over and she just reorganizes my whole place to make it more useful, I guess. But I'm just like, don't touch it. Now I don't know where anything is.
I see. Because you have an
It was
organized
working fine for me. I don't need it to work for anyone else but me. It's my apartment.
right. I guess this is why you said that you're also not good in like a partnership because of the TI.
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. What
No, but
about
it's important. Like, I mean, the only way to really get outside of yourself is to have a partnership. Like, I'm not saying it's good for me to be alone. It's not. Like, it's definitely good for me to, try to interact with people and, bridge that gap and not be such a selfish, stuck in my corner.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That
Definitely a lot of growth to be had there for sure. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, dude, you're doing so much play though, because like you're running the cognitive resolution group. So you
You
know.
know, so okay, the story of you were in cognitive resolution for like a quick minute. How was that for you?
I mean,
Working with a team?
I wasn't against it per se. It was just like I think
Yeah.
at that time I was because I'm at number two. I was doing so many things that I
Right.
couldn't really focus on
Yeah, yeah.
like commit to it.
Yeah. So for me, I felt responsible, and the responsibility came from, just because you have a YouTube channel and people feel like you can type them now. Like you have a YouTube channel, doesn't mean you're good at typing.
Yeah.
And people are still going to reach out to you and be like, "Hey, can you type me?" And you're like, "I'm not good at typing, but if you want to pay for my time, sure." That's kind of your approach to it. And my approach was, I'm not good at typing, and do you need me to be good at typing? Am I going to lose viewerships? Am I not going to have friends if I'm not good at typing? So then I'm like, all right, so how am I going to get good at typing? And now it's just a big, huge problem. And so I come together with this entire system of figuring out how to type people and be more objective with it. And then I try to put it into practice. And it's just like a whole specialization friends thing. It has nothing to do with play. Yeah. And
Okay.
so now I'm stuck with this group. If anyone wants to take over, please come take it over. I don't want it anymore. And then I just need a place, because I've got this YouTube channel. So when people reach out to me to get typed, it's free typing. I just need to like point them to somewhere where I'm like, yeah, this is the best the community can offer right now.
Right.
So go there. Yeah.
I see. That. That's so funny. I've always figured it kind of just fell on your lap by accident. Like it wasn't something that you like really wanted, you know?
No, definitely didn't want. And I definitely have lost friendships over it too, which I really hate. Like I would rather just be people's friends and not be in charge of this thing. Because like now that I'm in charge of it, I have to make sure it's done right. And I it's just horrible. It's just a big mess.
Oh, I see. Because like some people, I guess that were part of the group got pissed at you or something.
No one's gonna be happy. You're always gonna piss people off. And that's the way it is, especially when you like let people in on your decision process and you try to help them, let the group be happy. At the end, no one's happy. It's just, yeah, it's a shit show.
That's so funny, man. I think it's funny because you only started interviewing people to begin with because no one else was doing it, right? You know, and you wanted to learn, so it's like
Yeah.
then you became like the
Oh,
inter
because like that was the missing info. Like I get the system, great system. Okay, but does it actually work? Is it real? Are they typing people accurately? Can I put my entire energy behind this? Can I NT this? No, I'm missing so much info. We need that info. Where is it? And then you have all of the echo bots on YouTube re-blasting everything they learned from Dave and Chen and mixing it with their own experience. But like there's none of the info was reliable. And I think now that you've seen it, like when you interview people, you get to the reliable info. There it is. This is the source of it. It's in the people.
what do you mean by EchoBot? I'm curious now.
Sorry, guys, if I offended you. No, it's just like all of the YouTube channels that were around at the time that I started it, they weren't actually giving any new info. They weren't actually going to the source of where the info actually is. And I actually learned this from Megan Lavoda because when Megan Lavoda was doing videos and she was talking about typology, she wasn't just talking about typology from, a theoretical way. She was talking about typology from knowing a lot of people of these types. So like, oh, not talking about ISTPs generally, but all of the ISTPs I know, they do this. Sometimes they do this. Sometimes I'm like, oh, you know where the source of the info is. You found it. Like, okay, let's get that source. Let's bring it to the surface. And I made it into a show just so that people would want to come and actually talk to me, and
That's
and so
brilliant.
that yeah, like it just sort of worked out that was the right way to get the info.
Yeah,
Yeah. And
yeah,
then the other thing is, we already talked about the book, the Carnegie book, which you make fun of me about, but it was useful as hell. I
yeah.
needed a book to learn to play, but I've been practicing that for like so long. By the time I got to my interviews, I'm like, oh, this is great. Like I know how to do this. I've like I couldn't just have wung it. I couldn't wing it and just be like, okay, let's just play with these people. No, I had to have like some kind of way to know that I would be okay talking to people. Like I wouldn't fuck it up.
Oh, I see. It's like your training ground, for
Right. Yeah. So I had so when I went to step into it, I was like, okay, first thing I was trying to do was messaging people. I'm like, hey, you know what's missing? An interview. And they're like, nah, I don't agree. And like no one was agreeing with me. I was like, maybe you should do it. Maybe you should do it. I was like really trying and no one wanted to do it. So I was just like, fuck. Yeah. And then as soon as I started doing it, you did it. I was like, oh, why do I need to do this anymore?
yeah, this fucker came out of nowhere and he's doing it like I would,
He's doing it too? All right, nice. Let's do this stuff. Let's get the real info. And so then I was getting double info because I was watching your show and I was doing my interviews myself. And so
Right.
like win-win for me.
Yeah, and I think the good stuff too was like when you're watching my interview or yours also is like you can compare, right? It's like, oh, this is like an ENFP and then this is this person and clearly they are not the same, right? Based on how they're communicating to each other, and then for you you're like an IP, right? So it's good, like
Right.
like when
The
I've seen,
contrast was good. It's good. Yeah.
yeah, like when I've watched some of your interviews, for example, like when you talk to Frank James, for example, or CS Joseph, right? Versus like when I talk to them, I'm like, oh my God, there's like a big difference in like the
Yeah.
kind
Yeah.
of questions you ask them and the kind of interaction you have with them. So I thought it was kind of you know, um,
Yeah.
interesting to see it from that way. And also, like you said, it was like a good way to learn. Like for me, I was like, oh my God, I learned so much talking to people. This
Right.
um
And to be honest, now that I've got CRG going, I'm learning way more about typology and typing people from working with a team than I ever did from any interview or for any class from any class. It's just incredible having to work out someone's cognition with people who think differently than you and trying to relate them to them as well. So like I have all of these presumptions on what FI is, and then I'm like, okay, this guy's FI because of this, and you've got two FI users on my team that are like, you're full of shit. Well, okay, you know what? I am. You inform me. What is FI then? Why is this not FI?
oh, I see. That's so good. That's so good.
Yeah, exactly.
Data coming in from just working with like like teamwork essentially, right?
Right, because your thought process, you're analyzing your own thought process now. You're not just thinking on your own. You have to prove what you're thinking to other people, and yeah, you learn just so much from typing with a team of people who are different than you.
You know what?
So yeah, people who don't know what CRG is, I haven't advertised it yet. I hope we don't get a whole bunch of we're not equipped to get a whole bunch of people coming in. So I hope so don't all apply at once to get typed. But the way it works is we have someone from different human needs. So we've got like the EJ, the IP, the EP, and the IJ on each team. And then every single person also is from a different quadra. So I'm the beta quadra and I'm the IP. No one else in my team is beta quadra and no one else in my team is IP.
Oh, so everyone has to be in a different quadra also.
Different quadra and different human need. And then that way we're actually able to get the right triangulation. So the answers are always in the people. That's what you have to come to. Like the answer is there. If we're arguing about something and it's this and this, it's like, okay, well, let's get more data. It's always, the answer is always, let's look more. Because if we're arguing, we're not seeing something clearly. We're all putting some kind of interpretation on it.
Would you say people are getting better at coming together with the same answer since like working with different quadras and human needs and stuff? Because like the way you perceive the
Yeah.
world is so different, right?
Right. Yeah. So no matter what, I believe like you really have to be a useless case of a human being if you get worse at something the more you do it, you know.
Right.
It's just yeah. So the more you do it, you should be getting better. If you're not, then really you need to analyze something. um the the, the other thing is so on the team, um there's always it's hard to keep members as well because everyone wants to move on, like you it was hard to keep the teams together, and for some reason that's now in my lap, keeping the teams together too, which really sucks. But so and then the other thing was I didn't want to get involved in telling them how to type. I wanted people to sort of figure that out for themselves, because now I've got a bunch of teams all figuring out how to type, and I'm like, oh, you figured out an interesting thing there and you did something nice there. Let's just take those and use those, right? So it's good to see the little solutions that are coming. And not all teams are the same. Not all teams are just as old as like the original teams. Members are changing. So the consistency you're going to get when coming to us for typing, just don't. It's more for us to learn and less for you to get typed. But you also get a big value out of getting typed by us because um, you just get four different perspectives on you. And I also very much believe that don't force an agreement. If you see different types, write down different types. And a lot of people come through are going to get like four different types from the team because the team can't come together and come to some kind of agreement.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh man, you sold that really good. Hopefully you don't get more people. Like that was a good
Oh God.
good
No, my
sell.
point wasn't to sell it. It was to
I know you're
explain
not
the
trying to sell it,
explain the TI
but
shit.
like from me, I'm a number two, right? So I'm always thinking from it from
Right.
that perspective, like, oh, dude, that was a good sell.
Oh damn.
It's like you start off with like, I don't
Or
need
we're really bad. We're gonna get you wrong. Don't come to us. Just
no,
go, go.
it's like no, because dude, you started with like we don't need you. It's like people's like, oh, you don't need us. People like love that feeling of like, oh,
Oh man.
it's like
But we really don't.
this is like exclusive, right? And then the next part is like you're gonna get four perspectives. People are like, oh my god, four people are gonna analyze me. I get four opinions. Like I'm
All
like,
right, can
oh,
you edit this out of your video? Like just edit this.
it's okay, it's
All
fine.
right. Yeah, no one watches your show anyway, so I'm good.
Yeah, there you go. That's right. Yeah, no.
No, just kidding. I'm just kidding.
um, um, yeah, dude. So I did ask Shan about this in her like live class, and then
Oh, did you?
she completely took my question and turned into something else completely different, which was to me was like, no, that's not what I was asking. So I was asking her, I'm like, like OPS was originally created by someone with their quadra, like their whole team is in the, what are they called? Gamma? Are they gammas or
Yeah,
something?
gamma, yeah.
They're all gammas, right? So like you're using the SE and you're shoving them in the NI box essentially, right?
Yeah.
That's the system, right? Maybe some FI is also involved with like filtering out behavioral consistency, kind of like TI with like logical consistency, right?
Yeah.
Um,
No, it's interesting to see too the way Dave interprets types, the way he comes to types. Like he had a whole video on TI and he was analyzing how does the TI feel all the time. And I'm like, what? What are you doing? Like, okay, now I get like his whole presentation is interpreted through FI. It's like, this is how the TI feels. I'm like, what? What is this reverse backwards stuff? Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you kind of have to translate to your own
Yeah,
language.
exactly. Yeah. It was really interesting to watch. I like that video. And my dad is exactly like that. Like he's the type of TI that's like, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. And he's like, just 100%, that's it.
Well, um, I guess your dad's not high friends. But anyways, so
No, he's not.
um, so anyways, so my question to Dave and Chan to that live class was like, so you guys are typing like this, like SE to NI, right? NI categories and stuff. So how would like the other stupid fly in my room? But anyways, how would like the other types do that? Like people with NE and TI, NE and FI, or what's the other one again?
SI.
Yeah, yeah. Or like
Yeah.
even SE
Yeah.
and NI, but like you don't have FI, you have TI, right? Like, it's like
Yeah.
how would those other guys uh how would they categorize each of the coins and whatnot? And then all they said was like some of the best typers are ENFP. So I'm like, oh dude, that doesn't answer my question. Like I want
Yeah.
the actual process.
You want the actual SI. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, the step by step, like how would this like person actually
Right.
can you break it down for me? Like how like
Right. Yeah.
the other like
Yeah.
the deltas, the alphas and the betas, how would they do
Yeah.
this thing,
Well,
right?
so the ball was passed to them by someone of their opposite quadrant. Like Young was INTP, right? So he sort of passed the ball to them, and they
Yeah.
took the ball and they did it in their way. And so I guess the ball kind of has to go back to the alpha quadrant at some point. They do have to eventually get the SI down and the TI down behind everything.
Right.
So you and I being like just on the periphery because we have one foot in both worlds.
Right.
We can kind of maybe translate and help that process along better. But I really do think the ball has to get back to them at some point.
I just feel like for me personally, like when I type people, I need more time because my NE, I need to look at your reoccurring patterns, right? If you're talking to me for like an hour, I don't have enough pattern. I don't know what your pattern is like, unless you give me your
Yeah.
SI, unless you actually give me like an SI, like huge document of like your life story, then I can comb through it, right? I mean, like, oh, I can see the
Yeah.
reoccurring patterns now. But if I don't have like the SI or like then or whatever, like the history of
Yeah.
it,
The other thing is that you're learning the system with your NE. You're not learning the system with an NI or an SE. Like you're interpreting the system in your own way.
right?
And so the way it's definitely it's good. You're gonna have to do a different process. There's no question.
Right. And that's why I was asking them how would this like us the other guys
Right. But
not
they
not
wouldn't know.
yeah they
They
would.
wouldn't know. They wouldn't know.
I mean I was
Yeah.
looking for even a shitty T answer. I was looking for like a something. Give me
Yeah.
something from
Yeah.
like what you've seen, but anyway, whatever. um
Yeah, no, it's definitely a struggle on a team because having someone. So on my team, we have someone of that's an EJ and a delta quadra. So all of my opposite functions and my opposite human need. And
right,
so and it hasn't been that way forever. Our teams have changed, but like
the
for
Brian.
me, trying to bridge that gap, like I get such a big um pushback in that way. Like trying to come to agreement with that person
Yeah,
is the hardest. It's always the hardest because we're always seeing things in a different way.
so you have an ESTJ then.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
And
yeah,
and before
sorry.
that I had Laura Miller, and like I learned so much from Laura Miller, not because like she was great at typing, but just because the way she was looking at things differently. She was always questioning my conclusions.
Yeah,
Always questioning the way I was doing things. And that was great to have. It was just really great to have.
I think you said that you really like her SI, like it was like she timestamped everything, right, when she was like typing people and stuff, and everything was like you know
Oh yeah, when we were having our meetings, like okay, so we've got a Tony on our team who's an ENTP, and he would come up and he'd be like, "Oh, I think they said something like this at some point," and Laura was like, "Yes, they said it at 12 minutes, 22
yeah,
seconds."
so
Oh, thanks, Laura. Let's go and look.
so good, so good, so useful.
Yeah, yeah.
um
So yeah,
yeah. Yeah, I do feel like because like when I talk to you, I do feel like sometimes we talk past each other because like we're completely different uh quadrants, right? Like
yeah,
completely different, like different cognitive functions. You're an IP, I'm an EP, like I talk about things, you
right.
like talk about people, so it's like I was like,
Right. And then your conclusions and your satisfaction in an answer is going to be different than my conclusions and my satisfaction
sure.
in an answer. Yeah, yeah. But like one thing is we're both infodom, so we can both, we're not like double activated consume and can't listen.
Yeah,
So we can get through communication problems because we have that information exchange because you're always comparing the application to the internalization. Like you're always comparing those two, and I'm comparing those two, and then we can keep having the conversation until that's satisfied.
yeah, I do feel like I'm talking to you right now. It's easier than the first 30 minutes we were talking because I was like, oh my God, we're talking past each other. Like you're saying like all this stuff about
Yeah.
TI and stuff. I was like, oh God, this is not my like
I
communication.
mean,
I was like,
I mean, I would take responsibility, but you're the interviewer. What am I going to say?
no, it's good. It's all good. It's all good. It's all
No, no,
good.
I'm joking. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. You can talk shit all you want, man. I'm cool with
All
it.
right.
Yeah, especially if I get in trouble, it's even better. Just kidding. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, you like the controversy. It makes you relevant.
Yeah. Oh my God, I had a good talk with Ian, like on my last,
Yeah.
like
Yeah, Ian's wonderful.
outside of the interview, we had like a really good talk. Remember, there was like a big drama with me like a long time ago. You
Oh
know?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I mean, you know why, right? You get all that. You're okay with it.
I'm a double decider, man. I get it.
Yeah,
So
yeah, I know.
yeah,
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
But no, but I don't stray away from the drama for because I'm an EP, right? So I'm like, ooh, drama. This is not a bad
Right.
thing. This is like a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess for you,
You see it all the time though. I've been watching a lot of Piers Morgan, who's like an ISTP,
yeah,
apparently.
yeah.
And he's always talking about people's reputation and they're making errors in their reputation and all that. Like, and no, he's talking past all of the EPs. Like no one's concerned with what he's talking about. Like the biggest problem is your image. The biggest like what? Yeah.
Oh yeah, I saw his interview with Andrew Tate. I think that was a good.
Right. Yeah. He's like, yeah, yeah, with Andrew Tate. It was like, okay, so I think how people are missing you and how you're ruining your reputation is like this. And Andrew's like, what the like that's not even a conversation I'm having.
Well, okay,
Yeah.
with Andrew Tate and him, at least they're in the same quadra, so they can understand each other.
Right.
So
And the same, I think they're both double masculine too, right?
yeah, they're both the most aggressive of their,
Right. Yeah. So all of their functions are the same polarities. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, although Andrew Tate is unique because there's not many double masculine INFJ to begin with, so it's like it's good to
Right.
see what that looks like. It's like completely different from like the traditional Myers-Briggs description of
And
how.
number one, yeah, I got a lot of insights onto number ones from watching him because he's just so unapologetically a number one.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, he's kind of cleaning up his image though, because I was watching some of his interviews lately, and
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
like, I'm not gonna touch that. I'm just like, that's the old me. That's what he'll say, right?
Right. 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 Yeah. And he's able to do that. He's able to get rich doing all of like the bad stuff and be like, oh, I'm different now, and just use all that money to be different. Not
Oh,
good stuff.
okay. So, dude, that's like a powerful lesson for like a double decider, right? Like people will
Right.
forgive you if you just say, "Oh, I'm a new man," or a new person. And people buy that stuff all the time, right? Like you can clean up your image. Actually, it's actually good because
Yeah.
people trust you more. Because you're like, oh, you used to be a bad person, so you actually like understand people better.
Right. And then the single decider was like, no, I was always great. I'm still the same person. Yeah.
I mean, for him, he probably thinks like this is just a game. I don't really care. Like, I'm
Right.
still the same guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know. So, okay, so like if that was you and you had like a rough patch with a tribe, how would you clean it up? Um, as a single decider, just kind of curious.
Just disappear. It's
Serious? Like
you
you,
don't want me. You guys
you
don't
would
like
vanish
me.
at
All
all?
right, fine. I'm gone. I'll take my stuff and go over there. Let's go.
So you wouldn't do damage control or anything, or you won't like.
I wouldn't even know how. Yeah, I ostrich hide my head in the sand until it goes away. Yeah.
Oh, I see. And then you'll kind of just like a submarine, like peek out and like is it coast is clear kind of deal?
Yeah. Something like that.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
then you're an IP, right? So like wouldn't losing relevance kind of be something that would hit you, or not so much because you're like high friends? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm not trying to go up in the hierarchy. It would be that like the biggest hit would be the friends hit. Would be the okay, am I going to lose friends now? Are people who, originally like me going to not like me because of my new views or because they know more about me? Or, yeah, it's always a game on how much do you reveal to people because maybe you'll lose friends. Yeah.
Okay, so um being an ISTP number 4 is really weird. So I'm just trying to wrap my head around it. Um, you have a TI, and it's really, it's TI's, the highest ego possible. So
In the area of thinking. Yeah.
sure. Um,
Yeah.
but you're not a number 1, you're a number 4. So where is your ego attached to? Is what I'm trying to say. Because if it's not attached to a
So we all have the same ego. We all attach our ego to just everything the same. And I think really it's the interpretation of that ego is that you're getting to. So, um, like I'm not attaching my ego to my TI because I'm a TI user. I'm attaching my ego to my TI because TI is hard to do and I'm responsible for it and
right.
I'm putting in work there. And so I'm accomplishing things there. So that's why my ego will get attached there because that's where I'm putting in my energy and my effort. Um, and it's not the inverse.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So just you as a person then, I want to ask you then. So, if you're like a number one, yeah, your ego is attached to achievement essentially, right? Like no, and then if achievement and I guess you could say flex, which is essentially like attention, right? Or how much people perceive you
Yeah.
in a higher light, right? So, if that's not what you're doing, then what do you want then?
I think so. Again, ego is ego is ego. It's all the same. I still have that ego. It's not that my ego, I don't have one. It's just that I'm seeing it's getting in my way. And in order to accomplish what I want to accomplish, in order to have a family, to have a good, good relationship, to have friends, to just find a peaceful place in the world, all that kind of stuff, my ego is just going to keep shooting me in the foot. In order to keep my job, all that stuff, my ego is going to get in my way. And so in order to get what I really want, which is the friends, I need to fight my ego and not let it sabotage me. And that's it. That's what a number 4 is.
So are you suppressing your ego then to have those relationships, or are you working with your ego? Because when I in my day job, I'm not in Canada right now, but like when I was doing the personal training thing, one of my clients, he's a psychologist, right? um I think he's an INTJ. I think he's like play last, but anyways, like, so he said that like ego is important because it's not there to actually screw us up. It's there to protect us actually. So ultimately you want to be
Yeah.
working with your ego. Like you and your ego should be in a team essentially, right? And you keep your ego in
So
check when it's trying to screw you up, but like there's
yeah.
a time when it's also
So
helping.
I see it. I don't want to say okay, okay. So I say it to my dad too. So he's double activated consume,
Okay.
100%, and he's got a higher ego than me for sure, and it hurts his consume at the end of the day because if you're the one deciding if the information is right or wrong and your ego is involved in your consume, then you're gonna reject a lot of truths because you don't agree with it. Oh no, this doesn't fit into my worldview, and I'm more important than the information. Like it even hurts the consume, right? And
Right.
so even if I just want to do the animal of consume, not friends, nothing else, ego is going to hurt me there. I'm not going to get the right information if I'm involved in the process. And so it's just super important to get rid of ego for me in order to make sure I'm getting the right information.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, that's good. That's
Yeah.
that's that's really good. Um, I guess you never talked to your dad about this. Why wouldn't accept your worldview on this?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, no, he'd just say I'm wrong and that's it. It's okay. He doesn't have, and he won't consume anything more. Honestly, I think double activated consume just don't listen. They just, their
That's so
ears are
weird.
more closed than anyone else. Yeah.
But isn't that weird though? Because like you would think that's like the blast, the double activated blast that would do that, the consume blast.
Well, because like they're responsible for what? For internalizing the info. And if it's info that they don't want or they disagree with, then
Right.
they're responsible for that. They're going to shut it off. And they're just going to shut off info. Like I don't know, they're just self-involved in their own info world.
Well,
So
that
definitely don't listen to any new opinions. Like in terms of updating, I don't think they update. Sorry, if I'm sure you're the exception. Everyone who's watching the double activated consume, you are the exception. You're amazing.
good save there. Like, that's funny because then that means you're biased then, and then nothing your worldview is skewed then essentially. You can't arrive to the proper conclusion if it's already been kind of corrupted, right? By your worldview.
Yeah, because like what we're doing is we're balancing that with application. Like Blast is all about applying the info, making sure it works,
Yeah.
making sure, yeah. And so like we're able to take in information that isn't applicable. That's fine. We can do that all day long. But at the end of the day, we're not resolved until we know how it can be applied. And so like it's kind of wrong to say blasters don't take in any information. They'll take in tons of information, tons, but it's all going to be so that they can use it in a story at some point or to be applicable in some way. Um, yeah, within their box of, you know, I'm an ice cream maker, so they'll do just super consume an ice cream, and it's not consume because it's not internalizing the info, it's externalizing it, it's trying to apply it.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, and part of consume too is gathering new information, right? So if it's just for the ice cream, then you're just kind of going. It's almost like sleep. You're just going over known information, right? Maybe from like a different angle, but it's still kind of known information.
yeah. I mean, consume people with consume get really bored. all the time, and I get that. I get really bored. I need, if my mind gets too bored, I'm going to need to consume in order to, this is just a trick I found to wake up in the morning. It's super hard to wake up in the morning for everybody, I'm sure. But if I've got my phone beside me, I just put on like a little YouTube video or whatever, and then like see what, people published overnight, and I consume a little bit, then I'm awake. It's just, it's dumb, but it works. Like, I think type is really about optimizing your type, not about, yeah.
Yeah, so
So,
that stuff that you just said, that's like this kind of stuff I'm interested in when it comes to type,
right.
that stuff that you just said, right? Like I'm really curious how you could use type to really optimize your type, like you as a
Yeah.
person, right? Your effectiveness.
Yeah, because I think when you're coming into typology, the answer is balance, right? Like the universal answer for everyone is find balance.
Right,
And that's like a big coverall. Okay, everybody just find balance. You're accepting a binary worldview. You're trying to balance your binaries. Um, and if you disagree with your type, it doesn't matter as long as you have balance. Like as long as I know I have a sleep play balance, then it doesn't really matter what my last animal is. I'm balanced there, right?
right,
But I think beyond that, because to get to the state of balance means you're really exercising your ability to control the balance. Because if you start falling too far one way, you fall the other way. Beyond that, there's a state of optimization where it's like playing a musical instrument. You need both hands to play the musical instrument, and you don't have to like have a left hand that's balanced and strong. You need to be able to do the task you're doing. And so at the end of the day, the balance between play and sleep is less important than optimizing my type so that I can accomplish what I need, which is friends or whatever I'm trying to do in the moment.
right,
Yeah.
right. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. All right, dude. We
Yeah.
can wrap up the interview soon. Is there any topic that we haven't touched on that you want to bring up before we wrap up this catch up that we're doing?
Yeah. How do I get to Europe for really cheap?
What? You're like in Israel. You're like close to Europe.
Yeah. How do I fly to Europe for cheap? How do I do that?
Ah, well,
Never mind.
you would have to go to you would have to get those credit cards in Canada. Is what I would say.
Yeah.
'Cause you're Canadian,
Okay.
you're Canadian, right? You're born in Canada, right? So
Born in Canada. I have a Canadian passport. Yeah.
yeah. Oh, you don't have an Israeli passport?
I do. I have a French one too. Yeah.
Oh, you're triple citizen.
Yeah.
Oh, damn. Okay, yeah. So if you live in Canada, you can travel hack so easily. You can get so much points, and then you can like feels like you're teleporting almost. Like you can like go anywhere. Like that's what I'm doing right now. I'm traveling like for a year, right? And
Yeah.
I feel like I'm teleporting, man. Like I'm like 1 minute I'm here. Like I'm going to go to Iran, right? That's my 100th country, right?
Wow.
I'm gonna go there on like the first week of February. So
That'll be nuts. That'll be crazy.
yeah, and then a lot of people say, oh, it's gonna be Iran, it's gonna be bad, and then you're in Israel, right? Like you guys are like arch enemies, right? Iran and Israel, right?
So no, so like Iran is the Iranian people and everything is great. It's the government is a bit of a problem, even to the people. Yeah, they're very oppressive. It's a very dictatorial government.
Right,
I don't
right.
know what you'll see there, but like there's a lot of different people there. It's not just the Persian people that are there, but there's like a lot of different, like I think there's Kurds and there's all kinds there. I don't know how much you'll be able to travel and visit them all. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm visiting 3 cities, but like I think, I mean, for me personally, I'm going to Iran because of my FI. Not, like
Yeah.
it's just like a lot of my best friends growing up were Iranians, so it's like for me, it's like
Right.
okay, cool. I want my 100 country to be
They're Persian Arabian Iranians.
yeah, yeah. Like I
Yeah,
have a
yeah.
lot of like Persian Iranian friends, and like
Yeah.
some of them are half, they're like half Turkish or whatever. But like so for me,
So
it's
you
like
know what was really funny? I was learning nuclear engineering in university, and we had a whole. This was long back before Iran was seen as like a nuclear player, but we
yeah,
had a whole bunch of Persian people from Iran learning as students in because I was at McMaster, and McMaster has a nuclear power plant on campus. It's the only one of the only ones in North America, at least the only one in Canada, with the nuclear power plant on campus. So everyone went there to learn nuclear engineering, and so we had a whole bunch of Iranians learning nuclear engineering there.
yeah.
And then like I asked them afterwards, like as an alumni, I came back. I'm like, what happened with all those Iranians? What was that? Like, we don't talk about that. We're not accepting students from there anymore. So
Oh,
it was a big fiasco. Yeah. Yeah.
oh, that's so
But
funny.
so I probably know a bunch of the, like, they were cool guys. Like I probably know a bunch of them that are working on the nuclear program over there. So
Yeah. I mean, I saw that video before where like Israel went to Iran or something and they sabotaged their nuclear.
I think some hackers, yeah, there's like a division in the army that's hackers, and they can hack some things sometimes. They have a whole bunch of stuff already. They just need the okay to actually do it.
I thought they
There
physically
was
went to like,
I saw on so I'm in one of the Telegram groups. I saw that the hacker group published a whole bunch of credit cards from all of the Iranians, Hamas, all this kind of stuff. They published all their credit card numbers in a huge list, and is like, if you guys know how to use it, just go ahead.
oh man.
Yeah, war is weird today. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, no, it's really messy for sure. Like I mean, a lot of the places that I've been to before are like fighting now. Like I was in Russia and Ukraine, right? Like both of those places,
right.
and then there's people in the community. Like I look at their
Well, I
face,
mean, you've been everywhere, so anyone who's fighting, you've been there probably.
probably yeah. But like I was like looking at like some of the Facebook groups for like Facebook pages of like some of the people in the community. I'm like, there was like
Yeah.
this one guy. He's like an IP in a group. I'm not gonna name names, but like he was like
Hmm.
the Russians, they're evil, they're bad, blah blah blah. Like I lost all respect for them, and I'm like.
Right.
Um, I don't think.
Single deciding them. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like I like. Have you met actual Russians? They're really nice. They're offensive, which I like, but like they're
Yeah.
actually nice people. They're just as nice as the Ukrainian neighbors, And
Yeah.
then
I
like
get a lot of updates from Ukraine because one of my coworkers is Ukrainian, and his mother-in-law was there, and he was able to bring her over,
yeah.
and he showed me a picture of her building. It's now completely destroyed. He's like, if we didn't bring her over, she would have been dead.
Oh
But
Jesus,
yeah.
that is nuts, man. Um. All right. Anyways, we can wrap up the interview here. So, um, unless there's something else
Yeah.
to bring up.
No, I'm good, man. Thanks for having me around, and yeah, be good. Have a good one.
Thanks. All right. Thanks, Benjamin. Take care, man.